is the part of our chart that reveals our unique superpower that we oftentimes feel the need to edit because we've been rejected or perceived to be rejected for expressing it in our past. Usually this happens before we're 1 year old. We're doing something in our life and, mom says, no, you can't do that. You can't express that part of yourself. Let's say, as a good example, I'm a Chiron Taurus person, and Chiron Taurus person is going to be told to keep up. Clients, everyone has a Chiron in their chart. So this doesn't mean that you have a bad relationship with your mother. Some do. And I can certainly, if you do, there's going to be a lot of that Chiron energy as part of it. But it just means that we are all imperfect people. And in expressing something that may have seemed very normal to the parent and trying to get them, put on your shoes a little quicker. We're going to be late for something, whatever it is. I want to sit here, 1 year old, I want to sit here and play with my little toy and focus on it. And they're like, no, we gotta go meet somebody. We gotta go do this family thing. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. And you don't even have the language to put to it as a child. But as you get older, again, looking at that Taurus Chiron example, you end up having really strong fear of missing out. And you end up going a lot faster, and you end up pushing yourself to do things at a pace that doesn't suit you, that doesn't suit your personal cycles. And it will then kind of backfire, because the reason that we're editing whatever it is in us, our Chiron, is so we can fit in better. We want to fit in, but really this is the part of us that's meant to stand out. So with that, we go through, and I always tell people to double down on it. So again, with the Taurus example, and I'm going to kind of go through all of the signs, at least touch on them. We want to double down on it. So if I think that I have to get something done in a day, I'm going to take 3 days to do it. If I think I'm going to miss out of an experience by, I need to rest, Taurus needs to rest. And I find myself doing this a lot, where I'm like, I need time to myself to rest, to follow my own pace. And then I end up being resentful for the people who around me who pushed me to do something that wasn't really for me. But I wanted to fit in. We all have all sorts of different parts of our charts. Anyone with Taurus in Chiron is also going to have Libra and Pluto. So there's the recovering people pleaser aspect to that. And so we're always juggling all of these different parts of ourselves. But when we own it, when we learn how to own it, we end up being a beacon. Again, let that freak flag fly to people who need to shift their own behaviors, to need to follow. And again, keeping up with this Taurus example, who need to follow their own pace. Who need to, with my Chiron conjunct Lilith, people who need to trust their bodies. If you look at me, I don't have your typical dancer yoga body, but I do that, and I teach those things. Very sensual in all of the work I do. I'm very comfortable with my body, which society tells us that a body like this is deemed unacceptable or whatever. And so that's part of the Lilith part of the Chiron. And so the more that I do that, the more I attract people. It's in my 10th house. It's my house of career. So you can see me doing this right now on my YouTube channel, on all of my social media, and all of the work I do. And I attract the people who don't quite feel like they fit in, especially because of things having to do with their bodies, or because of their fear of their sharing their feminine side. And again, you'll hear me say this over and over, feminine and masculine energy has nothing to do with gender roles, gender expression, assigned gender, sex, any of that stuff. It has to do with, it's an energy. And the feminine energy is about being in tune with our natural rhythms, again, Taurus. energy, and it's about being following our most primal instinct, and going with that and measuring a bunch of nuanced things at once, and then coming back to Taurus, following it at our own pace. Aries Chiron people, I like, and I get a lot of those because a lot of them are at their Chiron return. Chiron has a 50-year orbit, so we usually get one Chiron return in our life. Some people live to 100 and get a second one, but most of us get it at 50 or right around because of, retrogrades and stuff. Mine will happen closer to 51. But I get a lot of those Aries Chiron people, and all of them, it's their inner toddler that I have to feed. I'm like, it's always what did somebody tell you not to do when you're a kid, but it's especially true with the Aries and Gemini Chiron people. Aries energy, when it's really being expressed, it can feel like toddler energy, and it's like, I'm really excited about this, and they want to go from one thing to the next thing and kind of leave everything else behind and follow that and draw on the walls and do whatever excites them. And so I tell my clients that have Chiron in Aries to really let that inner toddler shine and let them play and let them follow what excites them. Because what we end up doing is we end up doing whatever the opposite is. So an Aries Chiron person should be following their bodies, but what they end up doing is overthinking things and overthinking what everybody else wants, what's going to make other people happy. So then we move on. So Aries, Taurus, Gemini. I also get a lot of Gemini Chiron people because there's this lot of people who have Gemini and Chiron and Taurus, Pluto in Scorpio, and I get a lot of that age bracket, which is kind of the mid to late 80s, if you're following this. And so with the Gemini people, it's asking questions, like following your curiosity. Almost every single time I've come into I'm thinking of a particular person in my life who has both their Chiron in Gemini and their Pluto in the third house, third house is also about communication and talking. And they're always saying that they're sharing too much and they're over talking and they're doing this. And I hear them editing and I'm like, I love your stories. And they bring things together and they bring this richness to it. But somebody told them to sit down and shut up when they were 3 and that they asked too many questions, or one, they asked too many questions, or maybe it's before they can talk. So they're too curious about things. They're touching too many things. They're going after too many things. It's like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole, and that they've been told to stop doing that. So what happens is they don't ask the questions. They don't understand. And so they quiet their mind. They don't explore their curiosity. And then they, again, get stuck. And part of what happens then is as we are editing ourselves, we end up being rejected anyway for whatever it is. So I want to ask 10 questions, let's say. And I have something that I'm really curious about, and I've got a bunch of questions around it. But because I think I'm only allowed to ask one question, I wait and I'm quiet. And then the moment passes me by, or the question I ask isn't really what I'm interested in. And then let's say this is a student-teacher relationship, and then the teacher thinks that you don't know what you're talking about, or doesn't know, or looks at you funny, like, well, why are you asking me that question? It doesn't make any sense. Because you didn't give them the whole picture of what you wanted to share and what you're actually curious about. And then they'll still look at you funny. They'll still go, oh, that's a weird question. I never thought of it that way. And then they're sparked by it. And then everybody else in the room is going to start asking the questions that they really want to ask and trying to fit the mold that they think that the kinds of questions that they think the teacher is looking for. And so we keep on doing that, and we go through the cycle. And Cancer energy is about mothering energy and nurturing energy. So we're afraid Cancer Chiron people don't feel like that they can't express their emotions that they want, that they might not get the hugs and the kisses and they might not ask for them. Maybe their parents were very, very, kind of looking at the dichotomy between a Cancer and a Capricorn energy or a Virgo energy, where you're being nurtured and you're being loved as a child, but it's not touchy feely. Your roofs over the head, needs are being taken care of. You got you've got everything that you could ask for, but your emotions, you feel like you have to suppress your emotions. Now I see this too with people who have Chiron conjunct their moon, where they really feel like they're constantly being rejected for expressing their feelings, but they're not. um, but because they hold back on them and they feel like they're being rejected for their feelings, it ends up creating this vicious cycle where they're not, by not expressing themselves in the moment the way they need to, the way they feel to, they hold back, and then it explodes in some way, or it becomes um, uh, there becomes blame assigned to it, or resentment, because you were not able to express yourself, or you felt that the way you were expressing yourself was not received the way you wanted it to. But if you're doing it and being really authentic to yourself and sharing how you feel without blaming, or, blaming others or projecting onto others or resenting others for not being who you expect them to be because you're editing yourself, what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, well, you're really sensitive to X, Y, A through Z, and you're only articulating, you know, A. And so they're like, well, why do you get so upset about A? This every single time it comes up. And it's not that, it's that you're constantly needing to express your emotions. And once you do, the people around you go, oh, she's emotional. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when you're expressing it without projecting it. And that's something that I talk about with whatever thing that we're talking about. Remembering that if people are not receptive to what you are putting out there, it's not you. Let me add a little asterisk to that. It may be something that you are holding back on, and that you are not being rejected by the thing that you think you're being rejected for. You're being rejected for this mask that you're putting on because you think that the real authentic you isn't worthy of being seen and appreciated. And like I said, with this kind of Cancer moon aspects, your feelings are not, you don't deserve to have feelings. Nobody's going to care. Well, somebody told you that they don't care once or twice or 100 times. And so it's real. It's not that it's not really happening. It's just you feel it at such a deep level. It creates more pain than it would in somebody else. But again, once you express yourself, then the people around you learn how to express their emotions a lot better. They're maybe not doing it at the level that you are, but they're no longer holding back. That's why the Chiron is often associated with as the wounded healer. Because that wound, then as you learn to own it and stop identifying with it, becomes something that you can help and support other people with. So the next piece of this is so we've got, let's see, so then Cancer, Leo, Leo needs to shine. Leo needs to be generous. Leo needs to share the things that they love with the people that they love. So one opportunity that could affect that One thing that can affect a Leo and Chiron person would be like, again, as your kid, you have all of the toys and you want to be like, oh, mom, I did, like, I drew, they drew something. Maybe they drew something on the wall again. I love talking about kids drawing things on walls. Maybe because they saw something and they loved it and they want to share it with everybody, with the family, and they go, no, 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 you can't draw on the walls. We don't draw on the walls. And then you get your crayons taken away. And so you repress that creativity, that desire to share the things you love with the people you love. Um, Virgo. Virgo can be overly, Virgo's known for being critical. So Virgo Chiron people are going to look and are going to be rejected for noticing every detail in the room. Like, as a Virgo sun, I could like, my family kids me that I would see a spider from across the room, and we'd like have to cancel a camping trip because I notice every little detail. So Virgos are going to notice that, and Virgo Chiron's going to notice every little detail and want to fix it, but not everybody wants to be fixed. So maybe you put a example, 1-year old puts up, tries to, get a glass of water or something for a family member, and it's like, no, you should not be standing up, you're too little to be standing up on the sink to try to get that, and you make a big mess and it creates a problem, and you're like, and then you feel criticized for it, and you feel like you can't help. Virgos need to help in the way that you want to. And so again, you double down on it. You wait. You be like, so one of the things with Virgo though is that they always have to be asked before they help. Um, and that's an important thing. But then give the advice that's don't do, and this is going to repeat itself through this, is don't do what you think the other people want. Don't do what society has told you is correct. Don't do the thing that is 10% of what you are feeling and wanting, or doing the opposite of it. Make sure you go all in with whatever your Chiron is. If you feel that tinge, that fear of rejection, of doing something, of expressing that part of yourself, of expressing the need to help, of expressing the need to notice things and be supportive, and again, notice things and then fix them. Give them the whole picture, like not just one little critique, like, oh, you should get that. You need to move your chair, like this chair. It's in the wrong spot. Because it's not getting light in the right way. Well, I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, it is, but it kind of fits with the whole room. But the Virgo Chiron brain is going, well, you need to, if you move the chair, you'll get better light, you'll get more vitamin D, you'll be able to move this other chair over here, and then you'll be able to have like a sitting space for your drinks and your thing. And so there's like 20 different things that can be helped by doing this one little thing. And if you don't add all of those details, and you're thinking, no, 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 I can't add all of the details. People will get bored. People will get mad at me. People will think I'm overstepping. Give them the whole picture. Give them the whole reason. You don't have to spend 20 minutes talking about it, but you can spend 5 minutes saying, okay, this is why I think this thing would work, because I noticed all these 100 things. Do it without being critical. Do it without judgment. But do it, because then we all want to help each other. We all want to support each other, and we all have different skills. And that is a mad Virgo skill, is to be able to see things, see all of the details, and then be able to put them all in one place and make something better happen. So then we go to Libra. Libra Chiron people, they are people pleasers. They want relationships. They want connections with other people. They want to find fairness. They want to find balance. They want to find beauty in everything that they do. So what happens? Again, kids drawing on the walls. Let's have more kids drawing on the wall. The art, the beauty. They want something pretty, and the family is maybe like, we don't have time for that, or your needs don't matter, or it's going to depend on different aspects of your chart on exactly how they're rejecting you for your Libra-ness. But it might be that we're all individuals and we don't necessarily work with other people. Or maybe it's you're 1 years old and your 3-year-old sister gets a bigger chunk of the cookie than you do, and you're like, that's not fair, I should get half and they should get half. Like, not that a 1-year-old is thinking that, but again, it's this energy that then repeats itself. Is this fair? Nothing's fair. Nothing feels like it's fair when you have Libra in Chiron, because what you're looking for is balance and fairness and equality. And so you have to come back and find different ways to express it, because that's also part of the Chiron, is how do we do this thing differently? It is something about us that is different, and we do it differently and we share it differently. So Libra Chiron people are going to feel rejected might feel rejected in their relationships, because maybe they didn't get the attention that they needed when they were a child in the way that they needed. And so then you feel like you can't be in a healthy relationship because you never feel like you can express yourself fully, whether you're constantly defaulting to the needs of the other person or just simply holding back on what your own individual needs are and not feeling like you are allowed to have equality within your relationships. And that becomes very, very important. Scorpio Chiron people are going to be, the Scorpio Chiron people are going to be doing things that don't fit in. Again, everybody doesn't fit in with whatever their Chiron is because they're doing it differently than everyone else. But with Scorpio energy, it becomes about expressing things that might, an example of, an obsession with like something sort of cryptic, or what seems sort of cryptic when you are younger. It's all a lot of emo, a lot of depression, a lot of just deeply held feelings about things that are taboo, or a desire to do things that are taboo, and being again rejected for those and not feeling like you can express them. So Scorpio Chiron people, as they get older, and a lot of Scorpio energy, again, it depends on what house it's in, and I'm not going to go through the houses in this. I'll probably do that eventually, but I really just kind of want to give the idea of the signs, and then as we're kind of as examples, as I'm talking about how all of us can learn from Chiron and how we can learn about the Chiron people around us. If you have, your children, they're Chirons. It's something that is very unique. Every time I do a parent-child reading, I always have to do that piece of it where it's like, this is something that you couldn't give them, or you didn't recognize as a strength of theirs. You recognized it as something that was interfering, but didn't think it was a big deal. But they did, and they hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it. So with Scorpio, they bring transformation, they bring deep feelings, they bring and secrets. Maybe they want more privacy. Maybe they need to keep things to themselves a little bit, or maybe like whatever it is happening with that Scorpio child, then they need to have the opportunity to express it. And it can be it can be kind of, like I said, taboo behaviors, whether it has to do with sexuality or just, what was I saying? What was the word I used before? Cryptic. It doesn't have to be dark. It's just depth. And so Scorpio Chiron people, by expressing that depth and not feeling like they have to keep secrets, not saying that they're going to put all their cards on the table, because no Scorpio has done that in the history of Scorpio. because there's always another layer. There's always another cave to dig through. But by showing up and letting people in, no, not by letting people in, by simply expressing their needs, their feelings, whatever, even though they think they'll be rejected, and a lot of times could be, and maybe have been, finding the right people, finding the right connections, are always going to be like, oh, well, if they can do that, I can certainly do this. And so that becomes, they if maybe do something in an extreme, and then the people around them go, oh, at least I understand why you're doing this. I understand the behavior. I understand why you always feel where there always feels like there's a wall there. It's not because you're trying to hide something. It's because it's complicated and it's multi-layered, and it's not always something that you need to get into, but you can express that. You can say, well, it's complicated, and there's all these layers, and here are some things, and people go, oh, things can be complicated. I don't necessarily need to tell everybody everything all of the time. Okay. So the next layer, Chiron in Sagittarius is the wanderer. Is the philosopher, doesn't care so much about details. And so literally the kid who's wandering off at the playground trying to trying to explore things, or says, I'm thinking about my child who is a Gemini but has a Sagittarius moon, and that Sagittarius moon is like, the sky is pink. And I try to say, no, the sky is blue right now. But he insists the sky is pink. I'm not going to argue with him. Like, that's Sagittarius energy. That's Sagittarius Chiron energy too, is that sometimes we hold on to beliefs that don't make any sense to anybody. But you know what? They make sense to that person. And it's like, we don't, obviously, society has gotten to a point where where like the facts, we make our facts meet our beliefs, which can be a Sagittarius trait. But when a Sagittarius is healthily expressing their beliefs and their philosophy, they're going to change their beliefs constantly based on their experiences. It's not necessarily about making data fit into what their belief is. It's about experiencing and going after new experiences and then changing. So maybe a Sagittarius person is going to be about, I don't know, change their religions this perfect example of a Chiron Sagittarius person is picking and choosing from different religions, and having mom say, or dad or somebody say, religion isn't a buffet. Well, yeah, it is. We are our own, we are the masters of our own world and our own points of view, and everything else is experience, or collective philosophy, collective ideas, rules, whatever it is, belief systems. And belief systems don't have to be religions. They can be a political party. Maybe they're Green Party today and a Libertarian tomorrow and Bernie Sanders, and then it's I don't know who's a whatever. I don't. There's only so far I'll go with that, but it can be changing beliefs constantly, because your experience has changed and they shape those beliefs. And then once you're set, and then going with it, and then having this really kind of unwavering sense of positivity about something that you don't necessarily have a lot of backup for, and that's fine. There's something so incredibly profound and a gift about having deeply rooted faith, and having a belief system, even if it's changing based on how you experience life. And so that's Sagittarius that's Chiron Sagittarius. So then Capricorn Sagittarius. Oh my goodness. They are going to be the ones who are why who are organizing the blocks, want to leave. I think about one of my children who is a Capricorn sun. Um, and they, when they were a child, when they were like in preschool, would make would start a project and would have a plan for the project, but they would have to put it away at the end of the day. And fortunately, it was a Montessori, and they were good about that. We learned how to like flag it so they could pick up where they left off next time they were in class. But somebody with Chiron in Capricorn, they wouldn't have been allowed to do that. It would have been, you have to put it away every single time. You don't get to do what you want to do. But by explaining, I have this long term vision, you are able to, oh, again, people around you go, oh, you can have long-term vision, you can have long-term plans because it's stamina. Capricorn's about stamina and planning for winter and looking 10 steps ahead and then moving and doing. They are like the energizer bunnies. And so doubling, like when you feel like you can't make long-term plans and you've got to focus on the short term, that's not going to feel very good to a Capricorn Chiron, but they're going to go along with it because that's what everybody else is doing. That's what they're doing at work, and it's important for them to feel like they fit in at work because they're a Capricorn. So even though they've got long-term goals planned and all of that, they hold back on them and then end up being like, well, why aren't you doing better? Why aren't you achieving more? And because it's like, well, because I'm following your rule that says I'm supposed to focus on my short-term goals. And then when you explain the long-term goals, it's like, oh, wow, what a great idea. What a great idea. The whole team should be doing this. So then we go into Aquarius energy. And so Aquarius Chiron energy is going to be about, it's the unique, I always, whenever I have clients with this, it's like, it's the unique planet of uniqueness with the sign of uniqueness. So you are literally here to be different. All of the Chiron Aquarius people. And so they end up trying to fit in and fit the mold and do what everybody else is doing healthy Aquarius puts on their own oxygen mask before assisting others. Unhealthy Aquarius energy, Chiron suppressed Aquarius energy, is going to feel like in order to get the things done that they want to get done, because Aquarius is another one that is thinking very far ahead. They're thinking about humanitarian needs, and kind of the collective needs. They're going to, and that's why they don't fit in, is because they're ahead of their time. So they end up potentially falling back on old patterns and old beliefs and old like systems, or trying to fit into a lot of people. These are the people who are told, you can't fight the system from within the system. Or, excuse me, these are the people who want to say you can't fight the system from within the system and are forced to be in, let's say, some sort of government role where where they're trying to do little things to make little changes, but that's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to shift what everyone else is doing and get out of the system and start something new and move forward with it. And otherwise they're sitting there, would be called a sellout or something like that, which is so the opposite of what an Aquarian energy is. They're never going to be a sellout, but they look like one because they're trying to fit in a place that they don't belong. And then of course, last but not least is Pisces energy. Pisces Chiron energy is about feeling and surrendering to a higher power and letting the waves just kind of, healthy Pisces, I always say, is the center of the chaos, finds their calm in the chaos. a suppressed Pisces is not going to let themselves feel emotions. They're going to hold back on what, again, very similar to Cancer, to the other water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, where they're holding back on their feelings and holding back on the idea that thoughts and prayers and long term and the big picture can actually be very comforting to people. We get in a lot of trouble right now for thoughts and prayers because it's spiritual bypassing, and there are real people really suffering out there. And but a Pisces feels that suffering so deeply. They feel everybody's everything all of the time and need to do something with it. So instead of expressing it and letting things go to a higher power, saying the serenity prayer, they end up just suppressing it, or suppressing it by maybe going to the other direction, maybe going into kind of Virgo helping. Okay, what are the details? What do I need to help with? Because they want to help Virgo and Pisces. Every access has a similarity, in the Virgo Pisces axis is, and as I'm recording this, are the collective nodal axis. Collective north node is in Pisces, collective south node is in Virgo. And so we're all kind of experiences. I have Virgo sun, Pisces moon, so I have this natally. And so instead of leaning into the Pisces energy, maybe you take up with the Virgo energy. You also, just kind of as a side note, you always want to look at your south node, wherever your south node is placed, to figure out where the rejection comes from, because that has to do with our family conditioning. And so the Pisces people, they need to trust, to have it similar to Sagittarius, but Sagittarius is gut. Pisces is surrendering to a higher power, surrendering to something bigger than themselves, and knowing it's the vast ocean. And if they can surrender to that, they can feel the peace, and then they can be the calm, and then they end up helping people by being the calm in others' chaos instead of being drawn into everyone else's drama. So Pisces, Chiron might feel like they need to, um, that they hear the drama and they feel the drama, and they want to do something about it, and they want to hug everybody, and they want to make everything better so that they stop feeling all the pain that they're absorbing from it, when really the best thing for them to do is to step away, find their own center, find their own calm, and then they bring everyone else's chaos, everyone else's drama into their calm. So I hope this helps. I know I kind of went through this really quickly, and kind of weave different aspects of Chiron with each sign and ways to understand it. So I hope you watch the whole video all the way through and not just listening to what your particular sign is. As always, I offer readings and support for your Chiron. If you want to look at my website, the astrology part of it, there is a list of all of the different signs. And each sign, it'll say healthy expression, suppressed, overexpressed. And then it has a list of mantras and essential oils and how to really own that energy. And I always end up pointing people. One of the things I offer people is, one of my little kits is, I have a little anointing kit where you get like a little 2 ml of oil with a ritual card. And I often will recommend that people do their Chiron sign for that, not their sun sign. Chiron or Pluto or North Node are always going to be the best are always going to be the ones that you need to learn how to do in a healthy way and really learn how to own for different reasons and from different angles. But again, hope this helps. Feel free to book a reading with me or check out my website, katieshell.com, and hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.